This week on Hooligan Nation, what if? What if KISS never put on makeup? What if Ace Frehley and Peter Criss never left the band? Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. An episode of What Ifs. And think about it this way. You got
nothing to lose.
You wanted the best. Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS.
Welcome back to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. Thank you all for coming out. I'm Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
So in our discussions, my little Chong over here kept asking me for...
Never been called little before. That's good.
What?
I said I've never been called little before. That's interesting. That was good. I like that.
Well, it's my little Chong. My little Chong over here, right there. At least on my screen, he's right there. He keeps asking questions about what ifs. What if this happened? What if that happened? What if my aunt had balls? She'd be my uncle. As he was asking these questions, it came up in my head, wow, what ifs are endless when it comes to KISS. We should do an episode. And, well, here we are, doing an episode. So, I don't have anything news-wise. I don't have anything. Do you?
No, I think right now, as far as KISS news goes, it's kind of status quo. If there's something anybody else has heard and you want to pop out in the comments, feel free. But I haven't really heard anything newsworthy.
So you ready to get right into this?
Absolutely.
Would you like to start or would you like me to start?
Well, I think I'll start just in the category of, I think that this is what spurred it. A couple weeks ago, you told me. I had come up with the thing, just popped in my head. I'm like, what if KISS never changed the name and decided to try to make their mark with Wicked Lester as their name? And then all of a sudden, the what ifs questions went rampant with all different things.
I gave you my opinion a couple weeks ago. I'll give it to you again on camera.
Right.
Wicked Lester sounds like a child molester to me. And I don't think they even get off the ground. I think a band's name is important. I'm not sure how important the band's name is, because bands that have terrible band names, we've probably never heard of. With that being said, I still don't know what an Aerosmith is. Nor does it make any sense to me. But it is kind of catchy. You know, Guns N' Roses, I get, for instance. I'm going to bring up my new favorite band, Jackal. Jackal, I get. Frehley's Comet is ingenious.
Well, then you think of bands like Soundgarden. I mean, that's a cool name. Audio Slave. There are some really cool names out there that are catchy. But I think if I'm kind of continuing from where you left off there, the name KISS, I mean, it seems like a lot of things, like they had a vision, but it seems like they had some good luck too, because that's a perfect name for them. And a little side note, which I didn't know until I heard an interview with Gene, there was an original KISS, but they didn't copyright it. There was another band named KISS, from what Gene said. I didn't know that until recently.
I did hear that, wherever that was, that interview. I did hear that.
It surprised me when I heard it.
Crazy from copyright. I've heard this on Eddie Trunk's radio show. When you copyright something, you have to copyright it in different countries. Like if you copyright, let's say, KISS in the United States, there can be a KISS that call England home base.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I guess there's. I mean, I don't know whether it's copyright or it's trademark. I don't really know what the difference is. But what other bands? I'm not sure what a Soundgarden is, but I can go with it.
But when you think of bands and music, Soundgarden, I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm not really sure what a Judas Priest is. And you could just keep going and going and going.
Well, I
Uh,
told you I have a little fun. I have a hobby of all band names. I have a list of a million different names that I come up with. So, but Kiss is very distinct. I think it definitely, if you're looking for something to fit, it definitely fit them.
I
They're not
couldn't
the same.
I couldn't see a lighted sign saying Wicked Lester myself, but
No, it's
the whole
definitely.
the whole Kiss thing in general is ingenious, and I understand that. I say that everything they do is ingenious, but if you think about it, it's four letters, so it's short. The lightning bolts. It's almost like when they came up with Kiss, and I'm sure this wasn't this way, but it's almost like when they came up with Kiss, they already had designed the lighted sign and was trying to find a band name that worked in a lighted sign, because I just can't picture I can't picture Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses or Wicked Lester or any of those band names in a lighted sign looking the way the Kiss sign looked.
I do believe, just in my opinion, that a band name definitely can stunt a band's growth, because it's how you're identified by your fans, and how you're identified, um, and how you build a following too. So, like you said, Wicked Lester may have like turned people off. Everybody knows Kiss. Everybody knows that term. Everybody knows. I like I said, I think it definitely they definitely caught lightning in a bottle with getting that name.
So, what if? What if Kiss never put on the makeup?
It's another big what if. Um, Me and you went back and forth. We actually have a pretty healthy debate on this when we were just in conversation. Um, they're not the same band. They don't get to the same legendary status, in my opinion. I really feel like, in some ways, the makeup kind of hindered the appreciation for the music they put out, and a lot of hardcore musicians will definitely say that they don't feel like they're up to the same level of like Led Zeppelin and things like that. Again, music is everybody's different view. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. You got your own opinion about how you feel about it, but there may have been more emphasis on their music, but I don't think that they would become the iconic characters. I think the iconic characters are what really, I think, propelled this band to be as big as they were, more than just the music.
But if they didn't put on the makeup, it would have been the music that led them. I would argue that if they didn't put on the makeup, nobody would accuse them of not being a good musical band. I would also argue that if they didn't put on the makeup, they're first ballot Hall of Famers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They don't.
On that, I'll definitely agree with you on. That I'll definitely, because overall, the masses and like the people on that definitely didn't respect them as much because of that.
The out look. We've had this discussion before, and we both agree that, at least in our case, we all found Kiss with sight in mind. But if you're a Kiss fan, the sight will get you to the dance, but the music has to keep you at the dance, especially for 40 years, let's say.
Very, very well said.
If there's no makeup, people come to the band with their ears and not with their eyes. I don't think, look, maybe women in the 70s, or more specifically, maybe girls, flocked, still to this day, flock to male bands with their eyes, but I've never flocked to any other band with my eyes. I really don't care. I mean, yeah, it's mildly entertaining that Slash wears a top hat. I'm more entertained at the fact that he keeps the top hat on. I've never watched an Aerosmith video because of what Steven Tyler was wearing or because of what he looked like. So I just think it changes the whole game up. Let's just say a truer account of who they are as a band instead of them being poo-pooed by the outside world saying, oh, they're just a gimmick. It's not about the music. Their characters, it's almost like you could, this is not my opinion, but it's almost like the outside world would compare KISS to the Monkees. In other words, they were almost a fabricated band. If they didn't have the makeup, just like if the Monkees were a fabricated band, but if the Monkees didn't have a TV show,
well, you know the end of that chapter too, right?
Yeah,
they ended up making real music because of Peter. I forget his last name, but they ended up, because of that, they ended up branching out and making albums and everything after that.
Right, but
not all of them.
They were a fabricated band.
Absolutely.
It's my opinion that KISS has been loosely accused of being a fabricated band. It's about the makeup. It's about the explosions. It's about the tongue, the blood, the fire, the smoking guitar, the this and the that. Critics have so many other things to go to before they go to the music that it gives them all kinds of excuses as to why the music isn't good. Now, you are very rarely going to get a world peace or big kind of message song out of a KISS record. All Night, Calling Dr. Love, Ladies' Room, and so on. These are not world-changing songs by any means.
Well, that was going to be sort of some of my pushback with you on that, but continue. I got more,
But I've said before, I don't normally listen to my music like it's rocket science.
From a musician's perspective, I hear at times musicians have critique on KISS, and whether you can, like, they were always about keep it simple, stupid, keep the basic formula for the songs and make good grooves, and that, right, we go over that all to nausea, we go over that. But there's musicians that'll make comments that they don't do complex chords, they keep it, even they're keeping it simple. They're keeping it simple, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have the ability to do more. I think that they knew what their brand was, they understood their own personal identity, and they stuck to that. Does that mean that, like we were talking about with Ace, right? Does that mean Ace doesn't have the ability to shred?
I think absolutely Ace has the ability to shred.
Right. So I get a little bit defensive sometimes when they talk about the musicianship of KISS.
There's another way to look at this. Every time KISS changed the formula, there was a problem. The Elder, there was a problem. Carnival of Souls, there was a problem. Unmasked, Dynasty, there was a problem every time they changed the formula, and they changed the formula a lot. You have harped on this through the first few episodes, that's part of their history, and more I agree with that KISS wouldn't be KISS if they'd have just found the formula and repeated Destroyer 15, 20 times. I don't know many bands that really do that. Who comes to my mind is AC/DC.
Yeah, actually, that's a good
comparison. They have a brand, they have a formula,
legendary riffs,
and they're sticking with it.
All right, so I'm still at the KISS concert, and I'm looking at your background. I'm just wondering, do you have a question?
It's the what if episode.
I like it.
questions.
I like it.
Your turn. What do you got?
All right, so I was really a big fan of Eric Carr. So I'm going to go. There's a million what ifs. I'm going to go in a different area completely, and I'm going to say, what if Eric Carr didn't pass away? Because I met him at WDHA. They had an event, and I met him. I couldn't get over how short he was. I didn't meet him like close, but I was like there with a group of people, and I'll never forget it. But I love the way he played the drums. Me and you both agree he completely changed Kiss's sound. So what if Eric Carr didn't pass away?
See, so the thing with this is I have heard rumors over the years that Eric Carr was very unhappy in KISS.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Towards the end, but for whatever reason, and I guess I'm a bad KISS fan. I don't think either of us have proclaimed that we're KISS geniuses or KISS experts or any of that.
No, we're doing this because we love the band and we want people to talk with us about it.
Everybody else that has a podcast is legitimately probably a KISS genius. But I've heard that when Paul Stanley did his solo tour, whatever year it was, I think it was the late 80s, he took Eric Singer as his drummer, and Eric Carr, let's say, was unhappy about that. I think they underutilized Eric Carr in a official capacity. Like if you really pay attention to the little nuggets and tidbits, Eric Carr plays bass on some recorded tracks, but Eric Carr did very little singing other than established KISS songs like Black Diamond and Bath.
I liked his voice. I like his voice.
Eric Carr was a well-rounded musician. He was an employee. So he had much more talents that were never utilized for whatever reason. So the rumor that has gone around literally for years was not happy being in KISS. So what would have happened? I don't know. I don't know if Eric Carr would have left KISS on his own. I don't really think it changes the trajectory. I mean, you could argue that Eric Carr came in the band in, I guess it was 1980. So when 1995 comes around, do they not do the reunion tour? I think they kick him to the curb, just like they kicked Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer to the curb, and they do the reunion tour because it's what everybody wanted.
Well, I think it's safe to say that it never been stated this way, but Gene and Paul had a pact. Once Peter and Ace left the band, it was the two of them against the world.
Sure, I think I don't know, I really don't know of any band that once an original member leaves, the next person that slides in is an employee. They're not giving a band like KISS, if you think about it, in 1980, to bring Eric Carr in and make him a full member is a straight out bad business decision, because
right.
You then have to pay him for
royalties, past royalties,
for Hotter Than Hell.
Right.
They're not going to do that. I mean, he was an employee and he was treated, as far as I know, he was treated as an employee. Whether he was treated well or not, look, I don't want to get into craziness, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in a future episode. One of the things that Paul and Gene are notorious for is cutting off Eric Carr's medical insurance right before he died.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Well, there's lots of stories out there about that, and there's stories for and, of course, against Paul and Gene for that. but it was a business decision. That's the argument for. But we're getting into the weeds on it.
I can give you one quick comparison if you want. Metallica. They had Jason Newsted. He was with 45 bassists. He got the gig, and in an interview, he basically said he would have done it for a cup of coffee because he loved it. He was like so enamored with being able to be part of Metallica. So he was an employee early on, didn't get paid much, a really low amount, and then he was on for like 12 years with them. And he was not an employee. They eventually brought him in and made him a full-fledged member of the band.
Sure, Metallica did that with Trujillo.
Yes.
Camera, wrote him a check for $1 million and made him a full member from that point on. So it's possible. I don't know if it's a great business decision. You know, that Metallica documentary probably came out in the early 2000s. I just think they're a different band. It was a different mindset. And I think it was important for the three of them head cases because
Oh yeah, no, I know they had a therapist with them on that documentary. Yeah.
Right. And they mistreated, look, these are their own words. They mistreated Jason Newsted so bad that they were trying to avoid that. And it looks really like they successfully did avoid it. KISS, the other thing is, you imagine how much harder it would be to get rid of a band member if they were full-fledged members. Imagine if Vinnie Vincent, for instance, became a full-fledged member of KISS. They would very much have a much bigger problem when you're in they just fire you.
Again, it's funny, but they always compare bands to marriages. It'd be like a bad marriage going into an ugly divorce.
Right. The KISS marriage to Vinnie Vincent was annulled.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
And, for that matter, the KISS marriage to Mark St. John was annulled. So you take all that into consideration. I can understand why they didn't make anybody full-fledged members, that they were just employees. But no, to answer your question, I don't really think it changes anything at all.
All right, Tag, it's your turn.
What if, I'm going to steal yours.
Yeah, that's what I think we're going in the same direction. It's the biggest what if of all.
What if KISS didn't make solo records?
Yeah, that's where I was going. Okay, that's a double what if though, because Ace basically kind of gave him an ultimatum. No, then you have a guy who's in the band. They don't make the solo albums, and he's either going to quit the band. Like he basically was kind of giving him an ultimatum that he wanted to quit the band, right? And then again, correct me. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. They were basically like, all right, well, you know what? Let's all do a solo album. You can get it out of your system, and then we can get back to business of making our albums. But if they didn't make the solo albums and it was a happy place and Ace didn't want to force that issue, I don't know. I would have loved to hear the music they would have made.
But what if Ace was bluffing? I mean, you gotta wonder.
Yeah, but what would be the purpose of him bluffing with that? Like, what was his motivation at that point in time? Like, I need to be doing more on these albums.
Let's look at it this way. Can we agree Ace was unsure about his vocal ability?
100%.
Okay, so could he have been bluffing to gain more power in the band? And then they actually go with him with the solo albums. And once his solo album comes out and it sells the best and it is as good as it was, no more bluffing. He now knows, or he thinks he knows, because if you think about it, unfortunately, he did not go out and become a great big star. Now, 77, 78 solo albums. He didn't make another solo album till I think 1987. So there's 8-9 years there. But when he finally went solo, the original Fraley's Comet album is great.
Do you?
Became a star on his own. He didn't. He never got out of the clubs or the theaters. He still hasn't. This is not a knock on Ace. It's just before the solo album, I just think he possibly was trying to gain some kind of power over, like, we know that Paul and Gene, well, we think that Paul and Gene were always one cohesive unit. So
I think the core of their relationship definitely held that bond, that even if their differences got in the way, that bond kept them strong.
well, what I'm saying is they were always gonna vote.
That's my point. Yeah, that's what I mean.
We're always gonna vote together.
Right.
So like there's a lot of things out there coming right out of Ace's mouth that once Peter leaves the band, it's 2-1.
Right.
He had to go because he wasn't going to win any arguments. But even when Peter was in the band, you had so many stalemates, and this again goes in the weeds and down the rabbit hole.
Right. But that's what, honestly, that the weeds and rabbit hole, that's what this episode really is all about, right? We can go
well, but
a lot of different areas.
It just creates a what if after a what if after
right.
Which I guess.
Well, hey, listen, not for nothing. How much did Ace's addictions and problems and demons and stuff like that hinder his 9-year hiatus from really making anything either? Like, do you think that Gene and Paul were actually a benefit to keep Ace focused on making good, consistent music? And without them in the picture, he kind of got lost out there in the shuffle on his own. I mean, I don't even mean them in particular. I mean them meaning like the mission of the band, kind of keeping him somewhat focused and not completely like flailing out in the ocean. Like it was always that,
I'm sure they wanted to do that. I'm not sure that they were capable of doing that anyway. I'm not sure that anybody was capable of doing it. I mean, I've listened to Eddie Trunk tell shortened, cleaner stories of having to handle Ace Frehley.
Yeah, but this is something I got to say because it's in my head and it's something I want to get out there. We never really talked about this perspective. Not for nothing. Gene and Paul did not want the band to break up, regardless of the problems. They wanted the 4 original members to stay together. They've never said anything different than that.
They have never.
They were tired of the problems, but they never said that they wanted them to separate.
Well, they didn't say that until the second breakup. The second breakup they wanted to happen.
Well, then you got that second. The first breakup is kind of what I'm focused on. The second one, they're already off on their own and they're separate from what the original plan was. So it really doesn't even really correlate too much, I think, in my opinion.
And not that we're going to keep running down 100 different rabbit holes, but if you look at the second breakup, in my opinion, nobody has really done anything. I mean, Peter put out a solo album that is unlistenable. Ace puts out albums, and there's usually a couple good songs on most of the albums. KISS put out Monster and Sonic Boom, and I can't say that I'm a fan of either one of them. I mean, they got another 20 years of marketing. They got another 20 years of concert revenue, but they haven't put out, Sonic Boom and Monster is not, it's just not my thing. So after that breakup, really nobody did anything. Ace is still playing theaters and clubs.
I'll be honest, I haven't listened to those albums.
His newest album, 10,000 Volts, is actually probably the best one since Trouble Walking.
Yeah, I'm saying Monster and Sonic. I haven't listened to either one of those albums. If I'm being honest.
I think I've listened to them once a piece, and my problem, and it's always my problem, is Tommy Thayer plays on it, and I just have this. I don't know. I just have this issue with him. I don't have a problem with Eric Singer. Tommy Thayer is, what he is. Tommy, if you're in the area,
dude, he's a guy making a paycheck. What do you want?
My car needs to get washed. Do me a favor, come pick it up and wash it. I like my car washed by hand, though.
Did he shit your Cheerios or something? What's up with you and Tommy? I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know what it is. I dislike Eric Singer being in Peter Criss's makeup, but for some reason I dislike Tommy Thayer being the fake Ace Frehley so much more, and I have no answer as to why. It's just I don't know why. Moving right along.
Okay. All right.
Hey, KISS Army, we work hard on this podcast and try to give you the best content possible. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Also, the podcast is now on all the podcast platforms, so please like and follow us there and give us some 5-star reviews. It really helps us out.
And while you're there, let us know if there's any KISS-related subjects you would like us to cover in the future episodes, and helps us build the hooligan community. What if they did the solo albums and broke up because of them? If all 4 of them disbanded, do you think they would have found their way back? I didn't know that was going to be my question.
Oh, you mean if they would have broke up and then put the solo albums out?
No, like they did the solo albums, and then it led to them not being able to get back as a 4-piece band. And Gene and Paul basically said, okay, you know what, we're done.
It did. I mean, they made the solo albums. They made Dynasty. Peter doesn't play on Dynasty. He might play on one song on Dynasty. And then he's essentially out of the band. Ace sticks around for Unmasked and The Elder, and then he's essentially out of the band in secret for Creatures of the Night. The solo album, after the solo, they did essentially break up.
Right, that's true. All right, I'll rephrase my question.
My answer, no matter how you put it, is I think the 4 original members of KISS have proven over and over again that without being under the KISS umbrella, there's nothing there. Like Gene Simmons put out a solo album, a second solo album that might be more schizophrenic than the first one. I mean, Paul Stanley's last solo album was Soul Station. It's like 50s music. These guys have never been a tenth of the size that they were in KISS when they were on their own. So if all 4 of them broke up and went on solo careers, it probably would have brought them back together for a reunion quicker.
Okay.
Because I don't think that any of them become anything bigger than KISS. Who can I compare that to? Who left? Is there anybody? Anybody? I don't think there is anybody. Is there anybody that's left the band and become bigger? Like left an established band and became bigger.
Oh, Phil Collins.
Band. Well,
Phil Collins.
I mean, yeah. Phil Collins was
and Peter Gabriel. Both of those guys left, and they were able to have an established career afterwards. Not bigger. I don't know if he's. Would you say that Phil Collins became bigger than Genesis? I think he made a lot of great songs. Yeah, I would say he did.
Yeah, I would say he did too, and I would say Sting became bigger one.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
So yeah, both of them. But other than that, nothing pops into my head.
But I think we'll both go on record as saying that the line, at least for me, Mike, the lineup of Gene, Paul, Bruce, and Eric, I like the music they put out, and I like some of the stuff that Vinny did too. But I like that era. I mean, we going back from the first episode, that's where we started out. So I like the music they put out. But I think if they were able to find a way to stay together, they needed each other to be their best self.
But they were never going to be the Kiss that was the Kiss in makeup.
Right.
I think that's what they wanted.
Right.
And look, in the sense of business, they absolutely proved that the makeup counted for a lot, because look, they put Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer in the makeup, and I think if they disband the makeup group and grab Eric and Tommy,
Now, would you? I know.
And go out without the makeup, I think it's over a lot quicker.
All right, this is an important part. Would you like Tommy Thayer better if they made him a rooster?
As long as he was a dirty rooster.
Okay, all right. Yeah, he could be a dirty rooster.
A dirty rooster with a turtleneck.
Okay, all right. On that note, do you think that they did the Fox, right? They did. What was Vinnie Vincent again?
He was the Ankh Warrior.
Do you think that that's the route they should have continued taking if they were going to continue the evolution with makeup?
I think I agree with what Paul has said in the past. I think there's a limit to it. At some point, you're jumping the shark. If you haven't jumped the shark with the Ankh Warrior.
It's an interesting way to look at it, though. And it's actually a tough decision for a band to make, right? It's a tough decision for them to make, because at the same time, the thing you don't like about Tommy Thayer the most is you feel he's jumping in Ace's skin.
Yes.
Right?
I do not subscribe to the opinion that the spaceman is a character. The Catman is a character. I don't subscribe to that. That is Ace Frehley, and that is Peter Criss. I think one of the problems, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm really guessing that what I'm about to say is correct. You like the word organic.
I do.
Well, I think that organically, Gene Simmons became the demon, Peter Criss became the cat, Ace Frehley became the spaceman, and Paul Stanley became the Star Child. I'm going to guess that when Eric Carr came in the band, probably Paul Stanley, and this is probably fact that's known, and if anybody watches this, we might get killed for it, but I'm going to guess that Paul Stanley probably created Eric Carr's Fox persona. Right there, you've jumped the shark. The same thing with the Ankh Warrior. I think it would be a little.
Oh, he's an Ankh Warrior.
I have no idea, but that's what it is, an Ankh Warrior. But if Eric Carr comes into the band and they say to Eric Carr, hey, you have 6 months, come up with something that fits your personality, it might be a different thing, where I think what happened is they said, hey, congratulations, Eric, sign this contract. We're going to hire you to play drums for us. By the way, you're going to, and the Fox was not the first iteration of the makeup. It was some chicken hawk looking thing that you can find on the internet and on Google by Googling it. But I just think that Paul Stanley said, give me a weekend and I'm going to tell you who you're going to be. I think you kind of jumped the shark right there. And if you're going to have the quote unquote bosses picking the persona for the band member, yeah, I do agree with what Paul Stanley has said, which was, he has said something like, "What were we going to have the Turtle Man?" And yes, if he was going to keep creating the makeup, we were absolutely moving towards having the Turtle Man. I'm not sure if it was up to the person. I can tell you right now, I'm going to get killed for this if anybody listens to this, but I can tell you right now, I don't know what makeup you could have for Bruce Kulick. What makeup do you have for an accountant? Because I just think that Bruce Kulick was an accountant that played guitar. That's how you go viral.
Okay.
Everybody off in one fell swoop, just like that. I so far have pissed off all 3 of the Tommy Thayer fans and all the Bruce Kulick fans. Look, before I get killed for this, I love Bruce Kulick. It's the closest thing to Ace Frehley that KISS ever had. But yeah, personality-wise, he reminds me a lot of my accountant.
I think it's safe to say that I'm the good KISS cop. You're the bad KISS cop.
Well, I am used to being the bad guy in that. So
if I'm being a kid again at like 10, 12 years old when I first started following KISS, they were my superheroes. There's only one Superman, there's only one Batman, there's only one Spider-Man, there's only one Demon, there's only one Cat, there's only one Star Child, and there's only one Ace. There's only one Spaceman. So yeah, when you're putting the makeup on the other guys, I can see where it starts losing its appeal.
So I'm just gonna step right in it. I'm gonna step right in it. So I have a feeling that what I'm about to say is going to be arguing for Paul and Gene putting Tommy Thayer in Ace Frehley's makeup. But
that would be pretty insane.
If there's only one Batman, then who's the best Batman?
Oh, yeah, that's a movie though. The Batman is one person. Michael Keaton.
Yes, but if Batman, is it Michael Keaton? Because I think the other guy played a better Batman. Whatever the hell is.
Wow, are we getting into the weeds now?
Well, but this is I may come out of this episode agreeing with Paul and Gene putting Tommy Thayer in his makeup. Like they didn't say.
So is this kind of like KISS therapy here?
I don't know. Maybe I'm going to need a therapist as soon as this episode is over. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like Michael Keaton was Batman. It wasn't Burt Ward. It was Burt Ward was the original Robin. I can't remember.
Yeah, Val Kilmer played. I know what you're saying. Val Kilmer played Batman.
Right.
George Clooney played Batman.
And then there Christian
Bale.
Christian Bale. To me, Christian Bale is the best Batman.
He was good. I'll give you that. He was good.
Or he's the best Batman. But under what you just said, Christian Bale would be wearing Michael Keaton's.
I can still win this. You want to know how I can still win this?
Please.
I'm talking about the comic book. When you're a kid, I'm saying when you're a kid and you first like them, visually, they're your superheroes.
Yeah, but it was Space Ace. It wasn't Space Man. Like, it was Space Ace. I don't know. It's a...
I really hope we get comments on this stuff.
It's a black hole to the center of the earth that I don't think anybody's ever going to come up with the right or wrong answer for.
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you my take. I'm not. I'm never going to be forcing my opinion on anybody. But it's just the way I look at it and the way I grew up with it.
I just don't like the fact. I don't know why. I just don't like the fact that they put Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer in the costumes and in the makeup. To be honest, I think I would have preferred they walked out of the makeup and went back to the pre-makeup band, pre-reunion band thing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were going to actually have the current lineup and call them Wicked Lester.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, because I think look, I try to be as diplomatic as possible. Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, they left. They left. Either way, you can't get a straight answer. Peter Criss quit. Peter Criss got fired. Ace left. Ace got fired. First time, second time, whatever, third time. You'll never get a straight answer out of any of them. But Ace Frehley and Peter Criss left, and at least rumor has it that they both got paid. They got paid out. The reason why Tommy Thayer can wear Ace's makeup is because the way the story goes, Ace leased it to KISS kind of forever. Nothing got paid for it. So, he likes to play, I love you, Ace. He likes to play the victim.
Right.
But he's literally playing the victim. Like, he's not out in any interviews and saying, hey, look, I did it to myself. I got paid for makeup. And I've never heard about Peter, but I'm guessing that when Peter got fired or quit the band, somebody in that camp was smart enough to get him to at least sign off on them owning the makeup. It's ingenious. If you go on KISS Online right now today, they're still selling Peter Criss and Ace Frehley stuff indirectly. Like, you can tell the difference. Like, I busted your balls about your t-shirt being the fake KISS, but you can go on KISS Online right now and you can find a KISS shirt with all four members in makeup that it's Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. It's not Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer. You can see the difference. I'm sure Ace and Peter aren't getting paid for that. If they were getting paid for that, I don't think Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons would put it out. I think they would just put out stuff in makeup that had Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer in it, because I'm guessing they don't have to pay them.
Well, I just thought of something
other than
to kind of sum up everything that we've been talking about. And we kind of touch on this every single episode, and it really rings true, at least for me. And it goes back to the Unplugged again, right? Unplugged, they're all there. All the members that, other than Mark St. John and Vinny, pretty much all of the members are there. But if you add the little bit that Mark St. John did and Vinny and all that, and you put it all together and all the ups and downs, I'm still buying the book.
That brings me to my next what if. Is it my turn?
I don't know, but I'm going to say take the floor.
What if they do the Unplugged and they go into the reunion and they put Eric Singer in Eric Carr's makeup, and they put Bruce Kulick in Vinnie Vincent's makeup, and they go out there with 2 drummers and 3 guitar players, and they play like that? Now that's bad.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. That's a lot of egos on one stage at one time.
That sounds like a lot of fun right there.
Probably not for all the people involved.
I can't get deep into this, but I've thought about this more than once. I always thought for the End of the Road tour that KISS should have brought back as many people as possible. Like, I can understand Vinny has sued them and they have sued Vinny multiple times, but I always thought that they should have brought back Bruce Kulick, brought back Ace and Peter, and you can keep Eric Singer, and you know what? You can even keep Tommy Thayer, and try to incorporate every member into some kind of show and do it in eras. I don't know how logistically possible it would be, but it would be, even if it was only for, let's say, the last 2 shows at Madison Square Garden,
Right.
Would have been the coolest thing. Like if you broke it up into sections. Like who is it? Is it Wasp? I think I just saw a interview with Blackie Lawless where when they go out to tour for the 40th anniversary of the original Wasp album, they're going to play the original Wasp album from start to finish, and then they're going to take a break, and then they're going to come back on stage and do greatest hits set. They're going to do
Right.
different. So what if Kiss, and again, logistically this sounds impossible, but what if Kiss went out there, Ace Frehley, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Peter Criss, and did a set of Kiss classics all in makeup, and then an intermission, and then came out there with no makeup on, with Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer, and did the 80s era of Kiss, and then went back after an intermission, and you can even, put in Monster and Sonic Boom and do Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, or just come out for the third, after the second intermission for the third set, with all of them out there, and did some kind of, I don't know, some kind of something.
It's interesting, but you know what? I think at the end of the day, and you can't, there's no way they didn't talk about those kind of things. But at the end of the day, they probably, especially they're getting older now, they want to, I don't know about you, the older I get, the less I want to deal with drama. I'm sure at their age, they probably talked about it and are like, you know what? All it's going to lead is to drama. Let's not bother. But I think it would have been a good touch to do in some form.
I don't even think they talked about it. And I think you hit it right on the head. They didn't want the drama. They didn't need the drama. Enough people showed over the last 20 years that they either didn't care or didn't know, that they just still played, I don't know how many shows, but they still played. The end of the road tour, because of COVID, went on for years and years and years. I think they felt like, we don't need Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, and we're not dealing with the personalities, so we're just going to go do what we want the way we want. As a fan, I would have paid.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a fan's take.
I would have paid if you gave me a 3-hour, 2 intermission concert with, let's even throw Vinny in and say every living member of KISS on the stage. Boy, I don't know what my limit of pay would have been, but I would have probably, Taylor Swift tickets are like $3,000 a ticket.
Right.
I might have saved some of my pennies. I would have probably paid really handsomely for that. And I think it would have been a very cool show.
I agree.
All right,
I mean, it's definitely, it's fantasy fanboy stuff, but
oh yeah,
it would have been cool. What if Gene you remember the movie Runaway? What if Gene, the movie that Runaway with Tom Selleck that he was in, Runaway? What if that was like a stellar movie? Like, what if that was like he was getting demand to do more movies? How much would that have changed his focus? It's hard to, for me, I think Gene, even with that, I think Gene probably was always focused on the band as number one. Do you think they would have pulled him away?
No, it's common knowledge that Gene really had nothing to do with anything from Animalize until Revenge. Nothing. It was the Paul Stanley solo band pretty much. So
Okay.
my answer to that is, if Gene would have become a legitimate movie star, I think he would have left KISS, because they were out of the makeup. Gene was very much uncomfortable looking. The music had turned to something that did not suit his persona at all. There was no, you can't be the demon with fake eyelashes on, running around looking like a tranny, like he did for, for instance, Asylum. You can't put on, you brought up Tears Are Falling,
Love that song.
the video. Watch Tears Are Falling video and look at Gene. No one has looked more out of place in anything ever. It just didn't. I mean,
well, no, what I had focused on in that video, like we talked about Bruce, is his solo and the rain. I thought that was a really cool effect, how they had him do his solo, in the rain like that.
but what suited Paul, looks wise, definitely did not suit Gene in any way. You took the demon persona out of the equation. Although he kept breathing fire, he didn't spit blood. And then you put him in the 80s hairband clothing. It wasn't until Revenge to where they went back to the black leather and they went back to that look. And I think that that's the first time that Gene Simmons really came back to the band. And
I gotta listen. Gene's my favorite. He's my guy. But I don't think I ever really thought of it that way until you just mentioned it. Because I just, I enjoyed the music in that era and stuff like that. But I don't think I ever viewed it, in that way, where he's kind of losing a little bit of his character. But I'm sure once we get into those albums, it's going to be more, I'm going to be focused a lot more on it and be able to look at it that way. But I think while it was happening, I don't think I was really looking at it from that perspective.
Again, it's common knowledge. He had checked out. He had very little to do with anything. I guess if you look through the weeds, there's a lot of songs he doesn't even play on records.
I think between the two of us, you're definitely more of the researcher than me. So, I honestly didn't know a lot of that.
I unfortunately, I am when it comes to everything. Unfortunately,
no, that's a benefit. Like I said, that's not my forte. So there's definitely some stuff I didn't know.
But you have Eric Carr playing the bass on songs. You have Paul Stanley playing bass on songs. During that era, a lot of the Gene Simmons written songs are terrible. Really, Gene doesn't really make a comeback until Revenge. And that's probably the first record since Lick It Up to where Gene has a big presence. And Lick It Up was fresh out of makeup. So I think they were probably, I think him and Paul were probably more equal when they first came out of the makeup for Lick It Up. I think over the time, Paul became more comfortable with being out of the makeup. And I think Gene had checked out and wanted to be a movie star. And I think that's part.
So would you say, as a whole, again, Gene's my favorite guy, my favorite character, who I followed my whole life. But would you say that the ultimate driving force of the band from its inception is Paul? The engine never stopped. Was that mainly because Paul was that constant force?
Here's how I'll put it. Gene was and always will be the face of KISS in makeup. Paul Stanley was probably the more of the anchor. And I don't think you can blame, but it's a yin yang. It's the idea of a yin yang. And when you get into the mid 80s and Gene wants to be a movie star, there's no yin, there's just a yang. So Paul was left to do whatever Paul wanted to do, and there was no balance there. And at least musically to me, and even looks wise, when Revenge comes around, it very much looks like Gene Simmons figured out he's not going to be a movie star, and he comes back, and the music changes, and the look changes, and the yin yang is back. And maybe that went away a little bit for Carnival of Souls, but I think from the reunion to today, I think they're very much probably 50-50 partners creatively. And I don't think that could be said of KISS in the middle 80s until 91 or 92 when Revenge comes out. I think Paul Stanley is he's driving the crazy train on his own. It's also common knowledge that like Paul gave Gene credits on the album that he didn't really want to give him because he really didn't have anything to do with any of the albums. He was off trying to be a movie star.
It also shows that if that's the case, it also shows really how strong their bond really is. Because at the end of the day, like Paul kept it going and they still kind of kept it together.
I think Paul, I mean, this is Monday morning quarterbacking, but everybody gives credit to Gene for maybe being the smartest one. I think Paul was the smartest one. I think Paul saw the branding of KISS was going to make him a bigger star than disbanding KISS because Gene wanted to be a movie star and going out and being Paul Stanley. There's arguments about the magic of KISS, but I believe in the magic of KISS. I think when you go under the umbrella of KISS, there's something there that when they leave that umbrella, it's not there anymore.
No, I mean, there's definitely that initial chemistry that they had. And there's definitely something that anybody who's ever followed KISS and is a fan of KISS, they were meant to be together. They were meant to start that band together. It was definitely fate. They had that chemistry. And even when they did the initial reunion and they stepped on stage together again, and they were able to hide their bad feelings about things. When they were able to just purely be, the band and just focus on just being the band and putting out good stuff, they belong together.
All right, you crazy KISS kids. That's all we got time for today. But if you have any what ifs of your own and you want us to talk about them in a future episode, because I guarantee you we're going to do this again because I have at least 300 more what ifs. Drop them in the comments below and we will definitely mention it in the next time we do a what if episode. Chong, you got anything?
Yeah. Honestly, I really enjoy doing this, and I really, really want to start seeing comments. So if you have opinions and you decide not to put them up there, trust me, put in comments. It's going to be a lot more fun. We're trying to not only do a podcast here, we're trying to create a community. We believe have strong belief that there's a lot of us out there that have a lot of great memories with this band. There's also a lot of us that have a lot of difference of opinions. And again, this has been a big part of our lives, and we want to have comments back and forth. And if you see something, you hear something we say that you don't like or you don't agree with, which I'm sure there's plenty of stuff we've said that you don't agree with, bring it up there. We're looking for conversation with you guys.
Except for Tommy Thayer. He's garbage.
Unless he's a rooster.
A dirty rooster. All right.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Until next time, with everything going on in this world, don't ever forget, God gave rock and roll to you, too.